Well, hello everybody, this is Stevie J from AngryMarks.com, and normally about this time in the evening you would be enjoying the Raw reaction with either Quintastic One and Angry Tensai, or Tensai and his choice of co-hosts. However, Quintastic One is unavailable, and producer Killer Kev is unavailable, so that would normally mean no show tonight. However, for one night only, I'm not going to make a regular habit of this. I thought I'd do a little video/audio update on Raw, my own version of Raw reaction for the evening, if you will, and give you my thoughts on some of what took place. And as they often do on the Raw reaction, I'm going to refer to Ian Clark's recap to help jog my memory because it is a 3-hour show and sometimes tends to blur together when you've been watching that much television. But a few notable things took place. First one I won't even need the notes for because I remember this one pretty darn well. We opened up with the corporate makeover. They took Daniel Bryan to a suit store, had him try on clothes. They took him to a steakhouse, had him eat steak, and he didn't seem thrilled about it, but if you've been reading his interviews, he's given up on being a vegan, so it's not quite as big a deal, but he sold it really well. And finally, he walked down to the ring with Stephanie McMahon. She complimented him on how nice the corporate makeover looked and how good he was in a suit, and then she left and he was there all alone to cut a promo. And he went into the fact that he was wearing this suit and dressing up really nice and going along with the makeover, but he still had his beard, and that would come up a little later. And he went on to say that they can dress him up like this, he can play their games, but when it comes right down to it, he's not what they're looking for, even if he's wearing a suit and tie, because what they're looking for is somebody that wears cargo pants and bright colorful t-shirts and sells boxes of cereal to children. Well, you all know who that means, and he outright said it. I'm talking about John Cena. They don't think that I'm the kind of guy that can lead this company. I'm too small. I'm not built like a brick shithouse. I'm not going to go out there and wow the world with my physique. But what I am is a wrestler. John Cena's an entertainer. I'm a wrestler. If I get fired tomorrow, and it's happened before, I'll still be a wrestler. I'll still be working at armories and sweat boxes and dirt holes all over this country in front of crowds of 30 people because I am a wrestler. That was his tagline for the evening, and everybody popped for it in the crowd. Then Vince McMahon came out to ruin the fun and said, well, Daniel, your corporate makeover is not quite complete yet. We've got a barber's chair for you. You're going to shave off that beard. And if you don't do it, be careful what you wish for, because you might just get fired. So, reluctantly, he heads over to the barber chair, and Vince summons down Wade Barrett, because apparently Wade is the perfect example of a well-groomed beard that Vince approves of, and they give him a razor, but Daniel turns it around on him, throws him into the chair, beats him up, and starts shaving off Wade's beard, and Wade is appalled because half the beard is gone and the other half is still there, and it looks terrible. But Daniel Bryan gets the better of the day and leaves with his beard intact. Then when he gets to the top of the ramp, he pulls off his suit and tie and reveals a shirt that says, "The beard is here," pointing up. And he cuts a promo about it and he says, John Cena always says the champ is here. Well, tonight, the beard is here. And the crowd is eating this up. They're going nuts for it. So, 2 thumbs up for this segment. It was really long, but I thought Daniel Bryan did a very good job with it. Everybody played their roles. Everybody did the part they were supposed to. And Daniel Bryan came off like the big baby face that they want him to be. So, that was our opening segment. Let me go back to the notes now from our resident Raw recapper Ian Clark, who always does a great job for us here on the site. And what was the next match? I need a refresher. Oh, yes. Rob Van Dam and Alberto Del Rio in a non-title bout. So, RVD couldn't win the title even if he won, which was important because he did end up winning. It was a setup. I can stop referring to the notes here because I remember what the setup was. It was the return of Ricardo Rodriguez. Everybody's happy about that. But it backfired. He's trying to set up a bucket in the corner between the ropes so that Del Rio can throw Rob Van Dam into it. But instead, Rob Van Dam reverses the momentum. Del Rio is the one who clonks the bucket, and that leads to RVD getting the roll-up for 3. And Del Rio is so outraged at this atrocity that he immediately beats the living snot out of Rodriguez. He even puts his head between the steel steps in the ring apron, does a running drop kick, and crushes him. So Ricardo is definitely going babyface out of this. Whether they'll actually use him as a wrestler, I don't know, but you'd almost think they'd have to based on this. But short-term plans, I'm sure Del Rio and Ziggler are the bigger fish to fry. Long-term, at least Ricardo will be looking for revenge for being turned on by his supposedly best friend. And they probably are friends in real life. I'm not saying that they're not, but at least for storyline, that friendship is over. Next was Ryback and Mark Henry, which Mark Henry won by countout when Ryback bailed out of the ring, so pretty lame. Not going to say anything else about it other than that. It was pretty unmemorable, and I turned off the TV after this because there was a segment with the Bellas. I didn't want to see it. I didn't care. I came back later. John Cena was cutting a promo, and Ian Clark does a very lengthy recap of the promo of what Cena had to say in the ring. So let's just get to the nut paragraph of the whole thing. Bryan does not realize what's in front of him. If he wants it, he deserves it. If he loses, he has to wake up in the morning and admit he wasn't that good. You're on a hot streak, Daniel Bryan, but I've been mowing people down since January. You guys can cheer for whoever you want. I've lived and died by that. Just remember what I've been saying for 6 months. Our time is now, and the champ is here. Well, this is where Randy Orton comes out, and this sets up an angle for the main event of the show later in the night, because Orton ain't having it, and he says that it doesn't matter who walks out of SummerSlam, whether it's you or Daniel Bryan, the contract in my briefcase guarantees, he used the word guarantee, guarantees I become a WWE champion. One way or another, what I'm trying to tell you is the champ is here. So then the Shield comes out and attack both Cena and Orton. Daniel Bryan hits the ring to make the save. So Brad Maddox makes a 6-man tag, 3-on-3, the Shield versus Bryan, Cena, and Orton. Do you think they're going to get along to face the challenge of the Shield? I've got news for you. Babyfaces never get along in these situations. They're not supposed to. Especially when one of them is holding a Money in the Bank briefcase. Next up, the Wyatt family have a squash match with tons of funk. That is Brodus Clay and Big Tensai, not Angry Tensai, the Big Tensai. Former hip-hop hippo, if you will. Not much to say, just a beat down by the Wyatts to show that they are the eaters of worlds, and you should follow the buzzards. Moving on. The whole point is basically to set up Kane and Bray Wyatt for SummerSlam. Afterwards, Kane teases the fact that he wants to get Bray Wyatt one-on-one in a ring of fire. Does that mean it's going to be an Inferno match like Unforgiven when he faced The Undertaker almost 15 years ago? Certainly seems to suggest that, but we'll find out. Caitlyn versus Layla was next. Nothing much to it. AJ Lee provided the distraction so that Layla could get the win. Bad girls stick together. That's the way they roll on this show. Next segment was Christian and Heath Slater. Christian is a future contender, so they fed him somebody to make him look strong. Again, not too much to it other than that. Christian hits the spear and gets the pin. CM Punk and Curtis Axel. This one was a cluster. Punk fell off the top rope. Axel hit a neck breaker. Punk hit a roundhouse kick to the back of the head. He went after Paul Heyman instead of going for the pin, and the ref called for the bell. So, did he decide to throw out the match? I don't know. Nobody knows. That's when Brock Lesnar comes out. They get in a brawl. They go outside. The F5 is blocked. Punk throws Lesnar into the ring post. And Lesnar hits a belly-to-belly suplex and throws Punk back in the ring. The F5 is reversed again. Punk gets a kick in and hits a chair shot to the back of the head. Stares at Heyman, but Lesnar blocks a chair shot to Heyman, then hits Punk with the F5. And Heyman calls for more, so Lesnar goes after him with the chair, and Punk's chin gets busted open. But according to Ian Clark, it looked like he cut himself shaving. I don't know. Could have been the edge of the chair. It was hard to tell. I thought it was a good brawl. I had no problem with this. So, good segment. Builds up to SummerSlam nicely. You want to see these two tear into each other a little bit. You don't want to give away the whole thing, but you want to tease what a violent and bloody encounter it could be, even though that's slightly not PG. But for SummerSlam, this is what you need. You got to have people believing that Punk and Lesnar is going to be completely batshit crazy to get people into it. And if it's not, then what's the point? So you got to at least try to tease that idea. Again, no problem with this. I thought it was a good segment. Maybe not as good as the opening segment, but probably the second best segment on Raw, maybe the third best, depending on where you rate the main event. So, moving on, Fandango versus Kofi Kingston. Pretty much a squash match to reintroduce Kofi since he's been off for a while. Kofi hits his signature Trouble in Paradise and gets the pin. And if he hadn't, would have been pretty pointless. We the People come out and cut a promo on Wisconsin, which is where the show was taped tonight, and Zeb Coulter claims that their brains and arteries are all clogged with cheese, and they're too stupid to understand why Antonio Cesaro and him fighting for their rights. And he puts his hand over his chest and says, "Say it with me loud and proud, we the people." And his evil minions do so, and the crowd boos. So, they face off with the Usos next, but thanks to some triple teaming and cheating, the Ugly Americans are able to get the win. Big E Langston and Dolph Ziggler have a good, yet slightly underwhelming match, which Ziggler does not win because AJ Lee gets interference in, so it's pretty much what you'd expect at this point. Until they get AJ completely out of the picture, Ziggler is not going to have any success because she's the crazy chick and keeps ruining his life. Finally, we get our main event segment and the overrun of the evening. It's the much anticipated six-man tag that Brad Maddox made earlier in the evening. Daniel Bryan, Randy Orton, and John Cena versus The Shield. And of course, The Shield cut off Daniel Bryan and beat him down for a long time to get the heat and to make you want to see the hot tag. And both of them are begging for it on the apron, and it takes forever. He keeps getting beaten down over and over and over again to build it up. It finally ends up in a DQ because there's a kick to Roman Reigns, a roundhouse to the head. Cena comes in, takes out the Shield. The ref informs him that he didn't see the tag, so it's not legal. Orton brawls with Dean Ambrose. Rollins throws Bryan into Orton. He gets reversed into a yes lock. The Shield swarm to break it up, and there's a DQ. So the babyfaces clear the ring, the Shield come back, Orton and Cena clear the ring, but then Orton gives an RKO to Cena, and he goes outside, picks up his briefcase, looks at the referee, acts like he's going to cash it in, gets on the apron, the Shield come back, Orton backs off, and they beat down Cena and Bryan some more, and Orton walks back up the ramp with his briefcase, and the crowd is booing him. But he did promise them earlier on, "I'm going to cash this in on one of the two of you at SummerSlam." So even if they're not wanting him to turn full heel yet, he kind of needs to be for this segment to close Raw to set up the idea that at SummerSlam, whoever has that WWE title at the end could wind up getting screwed by the holder of Money in the Bank. So an effective angle to end the show. Again, second or third best thing on Raw, depending on how much you like the opening segment with Daniel Bryan and Vince McMahon, and how much you like the Brock Lesnar brawl with CM Punk. Overall, a good edition of Raw, and I'm sorry that Angry Tensai and Quintastic One weren't available to talk about the show, but they'll be back next week. So signing off for now, Stevie J with your Raw Reaction fill-in show.